Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com. Welcome to the podcast. This is your host, Seth Greene. Today I have the good fortune to be with Natalia Zacharin, founder of Zacharin Consulting, a firm helping business owners gain financial clarity and build profitable, resilient companies, something we all want. Natalia, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right, we are excited to have you. Let's go back in time. How did you get started?
Not an orthodox way to start a business, but I was working for someone in the corporate world, and I'm a single mom, heading towards middle age, and I wasn't seeing any possibilities of growing there. Was in dire straits financially, and someone, actually a guy that I was dating that I'm now engaged to, said, "Why don't you start your own business?" And that's kind of how it started. So I had no prior experience, no desire to start a business. I just did it out of necessity to make more money.
Wow. Well, congratulations. It appears to have worked out.
It has so far.
And congratulations on the engagement.
Thank you.
Okay, so talk to me about financial clarity. I always want more financial clarity. Why is this such a pressing concern for business owners?
Well, I found that when I was doing all my sales and trying to build, at first I was building a bookkeeping business, because bookkeeping is very necessary in every single business. What I found when I was talking to entrepreneurs on a regular basis was that there was a lack of understanding of how to convert that information that's in their financials into actionable steps to improve their business, either improve cash flow, improve profit, be able to scale, like so many questions that they did not have answered by anyone. And so I just started to analyze things, read, learn, and to have someone, when you're a business owner, there's so many things that that's trying to get your focus. And if you're not focused on the correct, most impactful things, or know what next steps to make, you can make a lot of mistakes. So this kind of helps you avoid a lot of those mistakes.
I probably made most of them.
Yeah.
And that's because, as business owners, we just start the business. For most of us, there was no formal training in how to start a business, and certainly in the financial side of it, which some people equate to going to the dentist.
Yes.
What is the role of a fractional CFO, and why do we need one?
I believe that every business should have a fractional CFO. So basically, fractional CFO is someone that takes the information, they make sure it's correct and accurate and timely, which is the foundation, and then they take that information and they look at it from the perspective of how to improve our current situation and how not to get into trouble. So they're looking future they're looking at the trends and the history, but looking more into the future of, if you keep going in this direction, what's going to happen? Are you going to run out of money? Are you going to improve your situation? And so it gives you time to react and to pivot before something happens.
I think that makes a lot of sense. So you talk about forecasting. Do you have a crystal ball? How does that work?
I feel like forecasting is a crystal ball. So we go through a lot of metrics, and most metrics are not necessarily an industry metric. Most businesses have very similar metrics. So there are very similar patterns for every business that is a success story. So we look at revenue, and then what are those levers that are impacted by revenue. So payroll may go up. If you have a product business, your cost of goods sold may go up. So it depends on all these different levers. So we look at revenue, we look at all of the costs associated with that, how those will change if revenue goes up or down, and then what we're left with in profit, and then what cash flow looks like and how much cash you need. So if we're looking at this from month to month, we really get really in-depth knowledge of the business by looking at this from month to month, and we can see if something, if one of those levers is triggered in a different way, what is going to happen, and maybe you're going to run out of cash in 6 months, and you can actually see that. And so every month we get together and we look at the actuals versus the forecast. And so we can see, are we in line to go in the direction that we think we're going? And if we're not, what direction are we headed in, and what is going to happen if we keep heading in that direction?
What are some of the most common mistakes business owners are making when it comes to their financials?
First of all, I think that there's a lot of business owners don't know how to read their financials, or they don't find that the initial process of bookkeeping, that it's a professional service that's extremely important. So why would you have a decent bookkeeper and not like a fantastic bookkeeper? Everybody wants to have fantastic teams, so that should be a fantastic member of your team or an outsourced member. I think that's really important. And one of the other mistakes is that they don't really focus on looking at those things. And a big mistake is thinking that just because you have a certain amount of revenue, that a lot of people start to hire or overhire. I see a lot of payroll to revenue ratios that are in a really bad place. And so if you don't have profit, the first place we look is how much are you paying for your people? And that doesn't necessarily mean that you should get rid of people, but maybe they're not being as efficient or effective. Maybe they're in the wrong positions, or maybe you're not selling for the right prices, or selling to the right clients, or the right combination of services or products. So there could be a lot of things that are wrong there, but that's a very common mistake, is the payroll to revenue ratio is completely off.
That makes a lot of sense. Who's an ideal client for you? I'm sure that that depending on the company size or the industry, tell me a little bit more about that.
So we love working with service-based businesses. We work a lot with medical offices, dentists, dermatologists, chiropractors, doctors. We work a lot with agencies, marketing agencies, consultants, coaches. We have architects that we work with a lot in the SaaS, IT, and MSP services industry. So we don't really have a niche. Like I said, we see the patterns of what works and what makes a business really successful. A typical business that would hire us is probably going to be at least $1 million in revenue, because we're talking about a very high level of service. It is a fractional service, so you actually get a true CFO that you would normally pay like $250,000 for in a salary. You get them at a fraction of the price, and they're there for when you need them. But typically, I'd say $1 million to 20 million is really our sweet spot, but we're finding that clients are getting bigger and bigger and hiring us instead of hiring someone in-house.
That makes a lot of sense. What have been some of the most surprising things you've learned along the way?
I think one of the most surprising things are, we work with extremely intelligent, savvy people that really know their business and are completely confused about taxes and cash flow and profit. And it always surprises me a little bit, but it's because it's just not in their wheelhouse, and that's not what they're focused on. So for instance, we had these 3 brothers that were brilliant, making millions and millions of dollars, and they're like, I don't know where my cash is. And they were actually spending it out of the business. They were buying real estate and doing all this other stuff outside of the business. So it wasn't easily noticeable to them about how much cash was actually going out the door. So it always surprises me a little bit when something like that happens. But honestly, like that, if I went, I can't do what they do. So it's not that surprising, I guess.
Awesome. You've achieved so much success along the way helping your clients. What's your biggest challenge now?
My biggest challenge is we've been doubling year over year. We actually made it on the Inc. Regionals at number 25, so really exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I think our biggest challenge now is to keep doubling. We would love to just keep helping more clients and seeing what that looks like, and just growing and bringing more and more value. Not I think a challenge will be AI for us to a certain degree, but we're so engrossed in value and in advisory rather than just compliance that I don't really think, I think we're going to be ahead of that, which is exciting. And we actually use AI and we're very technologically savvy. So we've been paperless since 2019.
Awesome. Your passion is obvious. What do you like best about what you're doing?
The results of seeing a client that's been struggling, that hasn't been able to make payroll or pay them themselves for a long time with a zero or negative profit, just suddenly like that aha moment where you're like, just do this, this, and this, and then they see the results, and it makes the change, and they're like bought in forever. And it's really part of it is just keeping someone on track, and a lot of it is like psychology. So meeting with us on a regular basis is also like helping you with your mindset of keeping on track, that yes, you're going in the right direction. It's gonna happen. Just keep going.
That is awesome. What do you do outside of work? What do you do for fun?
Oh, so many things. I am an avid hiker and gardener. Very love the outdoors, and I used to be a salsa dancer. I'm planning on going back. That would be fun, but just traveling and enjoying family and friends.
Awesome. And talk a little bit. Obviously, they're a fractional CFO, so they'd be remote. How do you manage culture in a remote workplace?
Not easily, and that's been a challenge that I think every time I think that we have definitely figured that piece out, it's still a little bit of a challenge, but we've figured out a lot, and we've gotten really good at hiring. So we have a system with interviewing to make sure that we have the right person. It's not an emotional decision. So we do 3 interviews minimum. We also use consultants. They're called Culture Index, to see how the person's wired. That's been very helpful, because you don't want to hire someone that isn't detail oriented to be your accountant, as well as you don't want to hire someone who's extremely shy and not social to be your salesperson. So you want to know how they're wired. And then we just have a lot of checks and balances, workflows, managers, systems, and very, very strong and deep in our core values, which is really important. That really drives the entire team.
That sounds great. We know your time is incredibly valuable. We appreciate you spending some of it with us. For our folks who are watching and listening, where is the best place for them to go to learn more?
Sure. So the best place is actually super simple. If they go to ZacharinConsulting.com/Sharkpreneur, they'll find a calendar link there to get on a call with us for a free consultation. They'll also find 7 ways to find money in your business now and the ultimate checklist for financial success in your business. So we have a couple of freebies.
Wow, that is awesome. I did not know you were doing that. Thank you so much. I will certainly make sure we go check out ZacharinConsulting.com/Sharkpreneur. Anything else you want to share that I didn't think to ask you?
No, I don't think so. I think that we had a pretty in-depth conversation. If you're not sure about what's happening in your business, we'd love to chat with you. Like, our goal is to let you know what's happening and what your next steps are, whether they're with us or someone else. We just want to connect with people.
Awesome. Well, this has been Seth Greene with Natalia Zacharin for Sharkpreneur. Natalia, thanks again for joining us, everybody. Thank you for watching or listening. We will talk to you or see you next time.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.